You know, in the startup world, there's this obsession, right? You're always looking over your shoulder at the competition. But what if I told you that the biggest, most dangerous threat to your business isn't another company at all? Today, we're going to dig into a lesson that could literally be the difference between making it and breaking it, and it all comes down to where you put your focus.
So, let me ask you this. If you're building something, anything, what do you think is the single biggest waste of your time? Is it chasing investors? Is it those all-nighters coding? Or is it something else? Just keep that question in the back of your mind for a bit.
And here's a huge clue, a really powerful thought from Imad Kund, the founder of Mercury. He says, your own execution is likely the thing to kill your business, so you need to ignore the noise. The real killer isn't out there, it's in-house. And to really see how true this is, we're going to look at the story of one founder who learned this lesson the hard way.
Yeah, it feels like every startup has a boogeyman, you know? That one competitor that just looms over everything, ready to pounce. It's the classic story we all love. But what we're about to see is that staring at that boogeyman, well, it can be a fatal mistake.
So let's meet our protagonist, Frank Denbo, and his company, Inca. His journey is the perfect case study for this whole idea, and it starts in a place you might not expect.
Frank's whole business idea seemed, at least from the outside, like a bit of a Silicon Valley caricature. And right from the get-go, he was hit with a massive wall of skepticism.
So what was Inca? Well, it was basically a platform to help other startups ship out their promo t-shirts, their swag, to developers and fans. Kind of like swag as a service. And he was getting traction. He had big clients like Stripe and Mixpanel using his platform.
But this quote, this just perfectly captures how people saw it. Frank was getting ridiculed left and right. People just saw his idea as this frivolous, prime example of tech industry nonsense.
And that doubt wasn't just coming from random people on social media. No, this was coming directly from investors. During one pitch, he was told this, just point blank. And just like that, the boogeyman had a name, Teespring.
Teespring's shadow was just everywhere. Get this, even someone like Alexis Ohanian, who Frank actually had a connection with, had to pass on investing. Why? Because he'd already backed Teespring. It was too close. It must have felt like every single door was being slammed shut because of them.
So you can imagine what's going through Frank's head, right? The story was set, the frustration was boiling over, his focus started to shift from building his own thing to, how can I fight these guys? How can I crush them? It became all about the competition.
But then, Frank did something that would change his entire perspective. He decided to go meet his quote-unquote enemy. He set up a meeting with the founders of Teespring back in 2015. And what happened next? Well, it completely flipped his world upside down.
I mean, think about it. The expectation was this tense, guarded meeting between fierce rivals. But the reality? He didn't find enemies. He found friends. He didn't find people hiding their secrets. He found inspiration. He realized these were pretty much the only other people on the planet who truly got what he was trying to do, and the struggles that came with it.
And this wasn't just a one-time friendly chat. It actually grew into a real collaboration. Walker, the Teespring co-founder, was the first guest on his podcast. Frank became an advisor for their next company. He built genuine friendships. He even invested in their world. All of this just from dropping that competitive mindset.
And as Frank himself said, the value he got from building these relationships was worth so much more than anything he could have gotten from trying to crush his competition. It was a massive win, personally and professionally.
Okay, so if Teespring wasn't the enemy, in fact they became allies, then what did kill Inca? This is where the story gets really interesting.
Now, on the surface, the answer seems like a freak act of nature. In August of 2017, Frank had finally lined up a critical $750,000 funding round. But the very next month, Hurricane Maria slammed into Puerto Rico, where he was based. And just like that, the investors ghosted him. The deal was gone.
But here's the thing Frank will tell you. That's not the whole story. The hurricane was a catalyst, yeah, but it wasn't the root cause. It was like this massive shot to the system that just exposed all the fatal flaws that were already there, right below the surface.
The real killers, they were a lot less dramatic, but way more deadly. Things like shipping costs he just couldn't sustain, expensive mistakes, including one single error that cost him $50,000, an inability to actually get products out the door on time. These were all execution failures, and they were slowly bleeding the business dry, long before the storm ever hit. And eventually, all of that just made him lose the will to keep fighting.
So what is the big takeaway from Frank's whole journey? Well, it's a lesson that applies to literally anyone trying to build something, not just a startup founder in Silicon Valley.
It's this. Focus on you. Focus on your own execution. The stories you hear, the press releases you read about your competitors, they are almost never the full story. Wasting your time and energy on all that noise just distracts you from fixing the real problems inside your own house.
And that really leaves us with one final question to ask ourselves, doesn't it? In your own work, in your own company, what are the internal issues, the execution problems that you might be ignoring? And is that competitor you're so worried about just a convenient distraction from the real boogeyman inside?